Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we talk about all things fandom and we talk about them in a positive way. If that's something that appeals to you, you've come to the right place. And today's topic is, of course, the DCEU with is Ezra Miller really still on as the Flash and everything else we do know about the new DCEU thus far. And then also we're going to be taking a look back. So let's jump right into it, shall we? Alright, so in breaking down what is in store for the DCEU, we can start by looking at some of James Gunn's tweets because a lot of misinformation has been distributed by different online sources. And some of these sources are more legit than other sources, but it doesn't mean they are giving you the full on truth. And the reason is that they are there to make sure that they get clicks so that they gain their popularity. That unfortunately is the state of journalism a lot of times now. And we are going to break down what actually is being said by James Gunn and what it could mean, because some of what he says doesn't quite chime with some of the things I've been reading online. So let's start with that. So starting from the beginning, James Gunn tweeted, Peter and I chose to helm DC Studios knowing we were coming into a fractious environment, both in stories being told and in the audience itself. And there would be an unavoidable transitional period as we moved into telling a cohesive story across film, TV, animation, and gaming. So that right there tells us that they knew going in what the fandom was like. They knew what they were getting into, so they tried to make sure that what they were going to do was going to work from the beginning, to kind of have a story much more in the vein of how the MCU does things. That, friends, is not a bad thing. So next we're going to look at Superman. James Gunn tweeted, among those on the slate is Superman. In the initial stages, our story will be focusing on an earlier part of Superman's life, so the character will not be played by Henry Cavill. Now, then he goes on to tweet, but we just had a great meeting with Henry, and we are big fans, and we talked about the number of exciting possibilities to work together in the future. So right there, I want to stop and kind of examine this a little bit. They're not saying that Henry Cavill will never, ever, ever be back as Superman. In fact, it kind of sounds like maybe that is a distinct possibility, but this will not be an origin story for Superman, at least not in any sort of traditional way. This is going to focus on a younger version of the character and then won't have Henry Cavill as Superman. This is not to say he couldn't return in some capacity later on or possibly play Superman's father or something along those lines. They are amicable with him at this point, so anything is possible. Alright, so then the next thing we have to talk about is Patty Jenkins, because she did this long tweet where she talked about leaving the Rogue Squadron Star Wars thing to actually work on Wonder Woman. When that wasn't going to happen for a little while, she was still actually attached to that project and still is to this day. She talks about how she had a meeting with James Gunn and they told her that this incarnation of Wonder Woman just don't quite fit into the story, at least not in terms of how the sequel had to go. So therefore, she was let go from that project, but then James Gunn then tweets back to her and says, I can attest that all of Peter and my interactions with you were only pleasant and professional. So what does this mean? This means that they're amicable as well. He has left no bridges burned thus far. And that is a very important thing as we continue to look at what is going on in the DCEU. So then we have to look at what The Rock said. The Rock said, I wanted to give you a long-awaited Black Adam update regarding the character's future in the new DC universe. James Gunn and I connected, and Black Adam will not be in their first chapter of storytelling. However, DC and $7 have agreed to continue exploring the most valuable ways Black Adam can be utilized in future DC multiverse chapters. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that don't sound like a swan song, does it? That don't sound like the end of him as Black Adam at all. That don't sound like that at all. That actually, in fact, sounds a little bit like there is hope moving forward that his version of Black Adam could indeed be in this incarnation of the DC universe. So there you have it. Another person that left on amicable terms with them, only to be told, hey, well, we could have you back at a future time. It's just we have to do this right now. Okay, so then we have to look at the next person on the list, Ben Affleck. Now, Ben Affleck has been in contact with them to direct, rumor has it. Well, James Gunn says, met with Ben yesterday precisely because he wants to direct, and we want him to direct. We just have to find the right project. So someone asked, what about Green Lantern? What about Green Lantern content? James Gunn simply tweeted, important. Perhaps the biggest rumor is that he's going to keep Suicide Squad and the stuff that he's responsible for and reboot everything else. To this rumor, he actually tweets the following. I keep seeing posts with this untrue theory. We are not recasting everyone except the Suicide Squad. Elseworld stuff, is it still going to happen? James Gunn tweets, that is actively happening. So there you have it. Last on the list is Ezra Miller. We have to talk about Ezra Miller because the Variety has stated that Ezra Miller, there are some executives who say that Ezra Miller could potentially continue on as the Flash after all the stuff he's done, because he's been good all summer. Well, now, I don't know that this is true or not. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb, though, and I'm going to say this is not true. But they are actively trying to publicize this movie. They're trying to get this movie out there. And when you're trying to get the movie out there, the dumbest thing you can do is say that an actor isn't going to be around anymore. But the fact of the matter is, after all Ezra Miller has done, it's bad form to even keep him. There is no way, shape, or form which it is logically sound that they keep Ezra Miller as the Flash. I think the reason they aren't announcing this is simply because they can't as of now. The movie has to come out. It has to do well. Of course, they hope it does well. They have actually also talked to the guy who plays Aquaman, by the way, about continuing on, but we don't know in what capacity that's gone on too. But the thing of it is, the Ezra Miller situation is a different animal, because Ezra Miller has done a lot of bad things. And although some people could say that he deserves that they deserve a second chance, it isn't necessarily the right thing to do in this case. Ezra Miller needs to get themselves right in the head again. They need to go and take care of themselves for a while. To actively put them back in this scenario where they are in a role that they have openly compared to God and had a God complex about is not good form. So I honestly do not think we see Ezra Miller back, although there is that Variety article, which I make of that these executives are saying it's possible just to sell the movie. However, that's kind of dumb, and these executives probably won't be around very long. We will probably see these executives get fired, although it will be quietly. I don't think we'll ever hear about it again. I think that at the end of the day, when all comes down to it, Ezra Miller is going to be pushed out as the Flash, and we will get an announcement for the new Flash. That's my take on that. Now, about where we are in the DCEU, the Snydercut. We have to talk about the best of the Snydercut, because I did promise. The best of the Snydercut actually comes in its early beginnings, with its primary function being Superman origin story, which At first, I wasn't really excited about their Superman origin story, but Henry Cavill quickly grew to be one of my favorite Supermen. Christopher Reeve, of course, is still my favorite Superman, but that's besides the point. Henry Cavill does an amazing job. The Batman vs. Superman movie felt a little complex. It seemed like it was blended together in a way that was trying to set up the Justice League way too quick. I wanted them all to have their individual movies kind of before everything else. And Batman never got an individual movie, which was actually a sort of a misstep. However, the first Justice League movie was somewhat okay until we started getting the release the Snyder Cut stuff, which the Snyder Cut is amazing to look at. So a lot of that movie is actually pretty good. I would give it all as a whole a nice thumbs up. However, it was also very dark, and we want to go in a lighter way with the DCEU, I think, going forward, and I'm completely down with that. If you notice the stuff that James Gunn has already done, the Suicide Squad was a major success for the DCEU. And it sort of did fit into the Snyder Cut. And a lot of the stuff that they are talking about, not firing these people, also seems to be a win. So I really do think that the best of your Snyder Cut is still yet to come. I don't think we've seen the last of the entire thing. I think that we could potentially see a little bit more start to go on with this project as we go on. So I think at the end of the day, the Snyder Cut is successful because of fan support. Overall, you want to know what I think the best thing about the Snyder Cut is? It's the fan support. The fan support that I hope goes forward in every project they do. And I don't think we've seen the last of the Snyderverse at all. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next. That's my take on it. And I hope that you guys leave a comment in the comment box below because we really do appreciate hearing from you. Also, don't forget to share this video with all of your friends so they can be a part of the conversation as well. Then Miko says we need more subscribers, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single video we do. And at the end of the day, you know it, I know it, and Miko knows it. Fandom is family.